It was 62 years ago today when apartheid police killed 69 people and wounded more than 180 others who had peacefully gathered in protest against past laws. To pay tribute to those who lost their lives that day, the 21st of March has been marked as Human Rights Day in South Africa. But what has changed since then? Hanif Vally is from the Foundation for Human Rights. He joins us now for more analysis, more discussions around the story. Hanif, it's great to have you with us on the program this morning. Thanks very much for coming on. It's a bittersweet day, isn't it? Well, not bittersweet, that's the wrong term. But it's difficult to look at today and say that there are Human Rights Day celebrations taking place around the country, given what happened on this day 62 years ago, and given the kinds of challenges that we continue to face in South Africa.
Absolutely. But at the same time, it allows us to look at human rights, the achievement of human rights, which is in our Constitution, the Bill of Rights, through the prism of the struggle to achieve these human rights. So we must always remember that when we do talk about exercising our rights, we are in fact talking about the struggles that people had endured. And let us not forget the 69 people who were killed in Sharpeville and over 180 who were injured in a protest organized by the Pan-Africanist Congress against the past laws at the time.
You're talking about just what it's taken for us to get to where we are in South Africa today. And perhaps the converse is true. You know, when we think about the kinds of challenges that government has faced up to now, insofar as delivering on the promises made in the fight against apartheid is concerned. You know, have we as South Africa, has our government honored the people who put everything on the line, their families, their country, their very lives? Have we done them justice?
Oh, we could have done substantially better. I mean, you just have to look at the extent of the corruption at the very highest level, which the recent Commission of Inquiry has exposed. And almost on a weekly basis, we hear of more allegations of corruption. If you see the amount of money that has been stolen by people in positions of power, then if not only not delivered to the people, but they've actively sabotaged the services reaching people who had lost everything they had during apartheid over generations, are in fact often still suffering because the possibilities of coming out of the situation, of breaking the cycle of poverty, has in fact been sabotaged by people who are with no shame self-enriching themselves. So let's be clear that there's been a massive improvement. There's been a massive improvement in the lives of people, in the fact that we have people who are able to go to school, who in fact can have the rights of all citizens in the country, stay where they want to, etc. We don't have death squads any longer, and people can establish their rights and assert their rights. But the shame of the people who've been stealing from the most poor people in this country, and this is across the board, the people who loot VPA's bank, they're still carrying on. Where is the money? Why don't they return the money? The people who stole from PPE, have the money been recovered? I mean, I've heard of a figure of 1.5 trillion rand. You know, if you convert trillion into seconds, it's before human beings were on earth. So for me, the issue of the rule of law and accountability, this is where we're very sadly lacking.
Yeah.
We're lacking in this area. We also now, the people who in fact have been responsible for this looting of our country are now going around picking on foreigners as if to justify their positions, to distract us. The xenophobic attacks that we are seeing, the attacks on foreign truck drivers, etc., is all an illusion. They want to distract us from the money that was stolen and is not being returned to the people. So we must fight against corruption, make sure that the resources of the country are directed towards the people in the greatest need, and in fact hold ourselves accountable for the blood that was spilled by our forebearers, by our ancestors in trying to fight against apartheid and impoverishment of our people.
Yeah. I mean, what you're saying, the last part of what you're saying, they hold ourselves accountable for the blood that was spilled in the fight against apartheid. Hanif, you know, how do we move the conversation forward on Human Rights Day 2022? Because the challenges are so widespread in South Africa, and they are so multifaceted, you know, in terms of corruption, service delivery, our healthcare system. There's the State Capture Inquiry report. There's the NPA and its seeming difficulties in prosecuting serious, especially financial crimes. How do we move the dial forward, you know, on this Human Rights Day, to not have the same conversation around how we commemorate this day, but start to take real steps forward?
Absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head. The one issue is accountability. So when we talk about accountability, at its very core, human rights is there to hold power to account. Then the other issue is our democracy. How has our democracy been subverted? Why is it that a handful of people, if you look at a country of 53 million, and there's lots of suggestions, a lot of money being exchanged at party political conferences, can determine the future for the whole nation? How does that come about, that our democracy has been subverted to that extent? How does it come about that all our agencies that were established in good faith, could it be the various Chapter 12 institutions, etc., were subverted by who was appointed to that? We know the NPA is struggling, and I think the NPA can do a lot better, but we know that NPA as an institution was subverted by people being put into place to ensure that the looting could take place. Similarly with SARS, similarly with SAA, and one can keep going. We need to see some prosecutions, we need to see some accountability, and we need to see recovery of money. We also need to make sure that the political party congresses cannot subvert our democracy and do not have the kind of power that they have at the moment, and we need to restore our democracy to make sure that it serves and delivers for all the people.
Yeah. So government official Human Rights Day commemorations are taking place in the northwest today in a town called Koster. The province, though, has a serious track record of service delivery failures, several times being put under administration. There are various communities living with sewerage running down their streets, sewerage running into their homes. One just wonders, in that kind of context, Hanif, what the president might say in these Human Rights Day commemorations in Koster, in that province, in the northwest, on a day like today.
We have got the colleagues of ours who are going to be present there. He must actually make 2 points. One, that people will be held accountable, both for non-delivery and for looting and theft. And two, we must restore our democracy. We must make sure that people whose intention is to self-enrich themselves are not allowed to, in fact, continue to do so, are not allowed in positions of power. We should have what's called lustration, where people who are responsible for the thieving are not allowed to hold public office. I think that is imperative, and once we do that, we can start healing our democracy and being more patent about what we do. Unfortunately, the president has acquired a reputation of not taking any action. People say maybe it's because his political position within the party is under threat. Who knows? But he must show that he is serious about restoring our democracy. He must show that he is serious about honoring all the people who sacrificed their lives and their futures in the fight for democracy, by ensuring that those who are in fact undermining our democracy, who are not upholding the rule of law, and who are stealing from where basic services could have been provided for people with the funds, are in fact held accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. Consequences for people who undermine exactly what was fought for on this day 62 years ago. Hanif Vally, let me thank you for your time this morning with the Foundation for Human Rights as we reflect on this Human Rights Day.